support us over there. Also, I would like to thank Humanu Code sponsors, Shopify, and I welcome all of you for today's session on front-end and blockchain, Carolina's journey at Shopify, and really excited for this session where she will be sharing about her journey and just a quick introduction about her. Carolina is a senior front-end engineer at Shopify. She's part of the blockchain team, where she combines her passion for front-end development and decentralized applications. Originally, she's from Colombia, but currently she's living in Vancouver. Really excited for today's session, Caroline. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Angeli, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for taking the time. You could be like doing anything, but you joined me, so I hope you will have a good time, and hopefully we'll learn something. I'm just gonna share my screen. All right. Can you let me know if I'm sharing correctly? Angeli?
Yes, we
Perfect.
can see your screen.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, and another thing, I'm really bad at multitasking, so I cannot like read the chat and like react or anything, otherwise I'll be too distracted. So if you have any questions, please save them for like the end, or we'll just like make a Q&A session. But I'm super interested in knowing what you think and any questions that you have. And yes, my name is Carolina Pinzón. As Angela mentioned, I'm a senior front-end developer at Shopify. And then, I don't know if you know, but Shopify, our mission is to make commerce better for everyone. And we do this through software. So we provide a platform on which any merchant can build their e-commerce site. So they can create their e-commerce website to sell their products. It can be new merchants, old merchants. But what we want to do is we want to make the best version of what the internet can be to merchants. So we want to help merchants grow and sell their products in our platform. And a little bit more about myself. My name is Carolina, but I prefer if people call me Caro. So that's C-A-R-O. You can find me in LinkedIn with Caro Pinzón Silva because you want to connect further, or like through my email, or that's also my portfolio, Caro Pinzón Silva, in case you are interested or like want to chat more. I'm super, super open. And yes, as Angela mentioned a little bit about myself, is that I'm originally from Colombia, from Bogota, but I have been living in Vancouver for the last 4 years. And I want to share like a small fun fact about myself, is that every year I try to choose a new hobby to like try it for that year. It could be anything like a sport, an activity. There's no like a rule about what the hobby could be, but I only have one rule related to what I choose, is that it has to be something that I'll be bad at. So whatever I choose has to be something that I think I'll be bad at. To be fair, that leaves a lot of possibilities because I'm not like naturally good at a lot of things, but it's just like interesting to do this, and it's a way to like keep my body and my mind learning new things constantly, and like a way to try different things that I maybe didn't think that I would like at the beginning, but just to try new things and to like get new hobbies. Some examples of the things that I've done with these: I did improvisation 1 year, snowboarding also I tried it, and currently I'm trying roller skating, which has been really, really interesting, really fun. The communities from all these hobbies have been like great. That's also something that I really like about like trying new hobbies and meeting new people, creating new communities. And going back to my talk, what I want to do is, this is the first presentation that I'm doing that is non-technical, so it will be a little bit different. I want to try something different for me. I want to share like my journey of how I ended up working at the blockchain team at Shopify, and like some lessons that I learned, and I don't know, some things that happen, and hopefully it will be like inspiring or interesting, and that it will be useful for anyone that's listening to. So I do have like 3, I would say, pieces of the puzzle that I want to touch, and I'll go back to through these pieces while I go through my story. And the three pieces are that I'm in Vancouver and I work in the blockchain team at Shopify. So as any story, we'll go back to the beginning. And don't worry, this won't be like a memoir of a life story of Carolina that starts from when I was a kid or anything. That I promise you that all the things that I'm telling you, or at least I think they make sense at the end. So the beginning of my story, it's going back to 2017, when I just finished my bachelor degree in computer science in Colombia. When I finished my degree, I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to experience different cultures and different countries. So I didn't really want to stay in Bogota. I wanted to explore a little bit of the world. And the good thing is that as a software developer, there's a lot of doors that can be opened, and we can work in different parts of the world. And back then, I really wanted to come to Canada. I don't know why, to be honest. If you ask me, I didn't know almost anything about Canada. I just knew that sometimes the cities appear on the best places to live, but I think I just wanted to try something different. So I started this hard process that I don't know if any of you have had to go through it, but about finding the first job after graduation, which was really hard. So I just applied to a lot of companies, especially trying to apply from Colombia to other companies. I applied to many of them. Some of them, two of them that I applied, between many others, were AxiomSend and Shopify. These are the two companies are important in my journey. So that I'll make special mention of it, but I applied to many others. AxiomSend back then was a startup that built startups, and it had two offices, one in Santiago, Chile, and one in Vancouver, Canada. And the other one, Shopify. I'm currently working at that one. But when I applied back then, both of these companies, I got rejected by both of these companies and by many other companies. I didn't get any job offerings here in Canada. And I learned that, with this experience and many other experience, is that I should not take rejection, especially job rejections, personal, because maybe it was just not the right time, or maybe it was just not the right fit. But I did, throughout that interview process that I had, I learned how to interview. I made my portfolio better. I made my CV better, more attractive. So yes, although it was hard because I got rejected, the important thing was what I learned from these rejections. And I'm still glad that I applied back then, even though it was a no from these two companies and from many other companies. And I think this leads me to the first learning that I want to highlight, that is to not fear the failure. So yes, even looking back, even if I knew that I was going to get rejected, I'm still glad that I did it. And I'm still glad that, yes, in a way I got rejected back then, because it ended up being part of my journey. And here I want to highlight a really good TED Talk that I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's called "What I Learned from 100 Days of Rejection" from Yang. And in this talk, he intentionally, for 100 days, he intentionally goes out and do things in which he believes he's going to get rejected. So, for example, the first day, what he does is he goes out and asks a stranger for $100. So I'm pretty sure that most people would say no to give a stranger $100, but he intentionally went and in a way looked for this rejection, because and the point of the quest that he did was not maybe succeeding on this impossible quest or finding someone that was going to give him $100. No, it was more to go through that rejection process and learn through going through it that it was part of life and that things were going to be okay even after the rejection. Because at the end, he discovered through these rejections that other possibilities could open that he did not think before. For example, one that he does is ask a stranger to have dinner with them. So he goes to this parking lot, I think it's Walmart or something, and he starts asking people hey, do you want to have dinner with me? Most of them say no, but then he meets a couple and they end up going to their house together and have a great dinner. So it opens up possibilities that he didn't thought he had before. And then what I want to highlight on these open up possibilities, because instead of when I was looking for the first job, instead of just focusing on Canada, I decided to try to open the possibilities and look for other countries. I'm really fortunate to have a double citizenship with Chile. So back then going to Chile was easier than finding a job in Canada. So I decided to try that and find jobs in Chile. And I was really fortunate to find a job. It was in a small marketing company. And I was able to, through this job, to move to Santiago, to Chile. And then I think this leads me to the second thing that I want to highlight. And it's something that I will call thrive on change, which it just means to embrace the unexpected change. So don't just have your mind set up in one thing that you want to accomplish and that's it. No, be open to new possibilities. And if you see another opportunity, go for it, because you never know where it might lead you. So because of that, I ended up moving to Santiago. Originally, I wanted to stay for 1 year or more. So I got there and I got an apartment, I got furniture, I got a lease for 1 year. I was really my plan was to stay originally for 1 year, but things changed. And while I was there, I actually met someone who used to work at this company called Axiom Zen. And they told me that they wanted to expand their office and they were going to open new opportunities for junior people, an intern. So I applied to an intern position while I was there. I applied the second time to this company that rejected me before. And I got a job offer with this. But the funny part was I was really excited because it felt going back, it was a validation that I learned through my process and that I was growing as a person and as a developer. But the funny part was that when I was about to join, they told me, I'm sorry, but we're going to close the Santiago office. We decided just for things, we decided to close the Santiago office, but have you thought about Vancouver, to move into Vancouver, Canada, is where our headquarters is? To be honest, for me, it was a really easy decision to make, to say yes. They asked and I was like, okay, yes, when can I go? And okay, it was, I did have to do lots of things. I had to, this was, I think 6 months after I was in Santiago. So I had to rent my apartment, contract early. I had to sell all the furniture. I had also to leave all the people that I met, which is also a really hard thing about moving. But again, it was about sort of thriving on change and be open to accepting new opportunities that maybe were not planned, and just go and accept them. So do you remember the 3 pieces of the puzzle? That's how I ended up in Vancouver. That was the first check in my 3 pieces. And then, as I mentioned before, Axiom Zen back then was the next piece that I want to touch is how I ended up with blockchain. And this was because of that company that I joined, Axiom Zen. It was not a blockchain company back then. When I joined, they were just trying different products and investing in new technologies, basically. But just when I joined, they were launching this product called CryptoKitties, which is a blockchain game built on Ethereum, in which you can collect and breed these NFTs called CryptoKitties. And I don't know if some of these words are familiar to you. For me, when I started working on this company and when I moved to this project, they were not. I had no idea what any of these things were. So it was a little bit overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to start working with this thing that I have no idea. It's also a new company, new team. But I just took it one step at a time. As everything, as every big problem, just it can seem overwhelming if you look at it from all of it. But it's better if you start one step at a time and try to be a constant learner. That's another lesson that I want to highlight. So it doesn't matter like what you're doing or if it's in work or if it's in life. I think it's important to always like try to look for new learning opportunities and look for new challenges that keeps you like continue growing as a person. And then like through this constant learner and through this new project, I discovered that blockchain was not hard as I thought it would be. And like as a side note, I also have this other presentation that I like doing that is it's called How to Write a Front-End Decentralized Application in 5 minutes. For context, a decentralized application is an application that is built on blockchain. And then what I like to highlight in this presentation is that it's actually the centralized application is really similar to a centralized application. They both share a lot of architect principles, especially in front-end. It's really similar. There's a lot of parallelisms between the two. So yes, like if you want to start building something on blockchain, you don't need to know everything about it. It's just, I think, like just learn the basics. And then as you continue like discovering this new world and like being a constant learner, you will learn like the challenging nuances over time in this new, and in anything, I would say, like just the important thing is like to always be learning and to like continue having those new challenges rather than like knowing everything. That's not important. So that's like the second check of how I ended up working at blockchain. So it wasn't something that I seek. It was like a learning opportunity that I had, and I took it. So what about Shopify? How did I end up being in Shopify? Well, this was back in 2020, so which feels like ages ago. It was before pandemic and before the whole world changed. I was still working in AxiomSend. I think it was almost like 3 years working there. And then in the beginning of 2020, Shopify announced that they were going to hire, they were going to open an office here in Vancouver. And then back then, I don't know if you know, but right now Shopify, we're a fully remote company. But back then we were not, we had to go to the office. So this was like, I think this announcement was a great opportunity for me to also follow, for me to try it again and see what happens if I apply again. It felt like, in a way, like a second chance to try to see what would happen if I tried it. And then something also that that even back then I still like a lot about Shopify is the culture that we have. So, and this has a lot of parallelisms with the thing that I've said, but Shopify has a culture that empowers the developers, and we work with trust battery. So by default, we trust everyone with their job. And this is really interesting because it gives you a lot of flexibility in your work. And we have some of our values are like thriving on change, being a constant learner, and being really impactful with your work. And that's something that always resonated with me. Yes, I applied a second time to Shopify, and I was really happy when I got the job offer. So that's like how I ended up working in Vancouver, blockchain and Shopify. But what about blockchain at Shopify? Because there's still not this connection between these two of them. So actually, when I started in Shopify, this was like almost a year and a half ago, we didn't have a blockchain team. This was only something that I think like our team is probably only like 6 months or maybe a maximum a year. So it's a really new team still. But when the team was created, I took the opportunity to join it because it felt like another opportunity to continue growing and learning. And that's something that I really like about Shopify, and it's a huge benefit, is that the company is really big. So there are teams that are working in many different things. And it's encouraged inside Shopify to change teams and to like try different areas. So you can continue being a constant learner and like thriving on change. So I took that opportunity and I switched to the blockchain team at Shopify. And what are we doing right now in our team? We want to make Shopify wallet aware. A wallet for you, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is just the same like as a physical wallet. A wallet in blockchain is where you save your assets, like that could be like your tokens or your currency. It's like a place to keep them. So we want to make Shopify aware of the wallets and people with wallets. And how we're doing that right now is that we are starting to make token-gated commerce. That means that token owners from different communities will have special access to products and experiences. An example of this was what we did in the South by Southwest with Doodles. Doodles is an NFT collection. It's really interesting if you want to like look at and search more about it. And then in this experience, in this event, we created an immersive experience in which everyone was invited to the experience, but we had a special experiences and products for the Doodle token holders. So for example, when a token holder entered the event, they were greeting like, hello, Doodle number 42. And we also had special products for Doodle tokens. So I believe you could buy like a sweater, and it was like the experience was really cool because it arrived like in a sort of roller coaster. You can see the video. It's really interesting what they were able to create, this like really immersive experience that was bringing NFT holders and commerce together. And another thing that we're working on, this is actually the product that I'm working right now, is something called the GM Shop, that is short for gated merch. And we want to bring also this token gated experience, but for mobile, because yes, we want to have like mobile first mentality and bring this to mobile users. And then a little bit how I want to conclude this presentation is with something called the hill climbing problem. And don't worry, I think it will make sense after I wrap it up. I just don't want to end with a math problem or anything. But yes, the hill climbing problem is a math problem in which the problem is you have a graph, or you have like a graph that has like a hill shape, and you want to find the maximum of this graph. So how do you find it? The hill climbing solution is that you, wherever you are, like wherever starting point that you choose, you need to go uphill. And as long as you go uphill, you'll find the maximum, right? And this works for simple graphs like this one. But what happens if we have a more complex graph in which you can have like global maximum, you can have local maximums. So it has like different shapes. In this case, if we go back like to the starting, if we have this starting point, for example, we will find, and we go hill climbing, we'll find a local maximum, but we won't reach the global maximum. So there's a solution for this problem that it's called random restart hill climbing, in which, as the name says, we're gonna, once we find a maximum, we're gonna restart the algorithm randomly. So we don't really care about where we're gonna restart it. The important part is that it's random. So let's see how this will look like in our problem, in our graph. So let's say we start with this point over here, and we start hill climbing, we'll eventually reach to this maximum. We save this data, and then we randomly start in another position. Let's say it's this one over here. We do the same, and then we end up in this maximum. And then many other random restarts later, it doesn't really matter. Let's say we end up with this starting point. And with this one, we will end up in our global maximum for our graph, right? And as this random restart solution, there's many other solutions. There's one called simulating annealing that has like more decisions between the randomness. But what all of these solutions have in common is that addition of randomness, which you wouldn't expect it, because why would you add randomness? You would want to reach your maximum, but all of them have that in common, and is the way to find the global maximum of the graphs. And then how does this relate to what I was saying before? So in a way, the lessons that I learned have helped me like to find a global maximum of a graph. So the first one was be a constant learner, right? So yeah, wherever you are, always go uphill and like always look for the challenges and ways to learn and continue learning. The second one was to do not fear failure, because for example, in this case, when we change to another starting point, it feels like we have failed on our way, and it feels like we are better than before. But it's just part of life and of learning to start like in this different position and continue trying to find the new opportunities. So do not fear that something that might seem like a fail, which is not really a failure. And the third one, yes, so thrive on change. Like, as I mentioned, change is really important because it opens up the new opportunities that will eventually lead you like to this global maximum. And yeah, I'm not saying that life has a global maximum or that we have to, in a way, find a maximum or anything. I don't think it's about like maximizing anything. It is more about how to continue growing and how to continue learning as a person and in a way as a developer in your career and in your life, like to continue finding these different maximums, whatever they look like for you in life. You can do this like applying sort of the same principles as you do it with a graph. And yes, as a final lesson that I want to give you would be to like, in a way, add that randomness into your life, because you'll never know where it might lead to. And it doesn't have to be a huge change, like a huge life change, like go to another country or quit your job and start a different career. No, this randomness can be anything. And a way that I do it in my life, for example, with small things, is with the hobbies that I like to try, these random hobbies that I start. And that I didn't think that I would start before, but it's like, okay, let's try this new thing and let's continue growing and finding like these maximums in my life, these different maximums. So if you want to add randomness in your job, maybe Shopify, we are hiring. I'm gonna share in the chat over here our job board that we have. This one is in Women Who Code, but I'm going to share the link anyway. And please, if you have any question, reach out to me. We're currently our team is currently looking for a technical lead developer, but there's many open opportunities from many different levels. So yes, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Caro. I think the session was really inspiring, especially the fact that in spite of facing the rejections in the beginning, you took on the challenge and are succeeding in life now. So it is really, really great to see that. It's really inspiring, and love the tips that you shared at the end. And randomness, of course, it's the key, and it's great to see what you're doing currently. So we have a few questions here in the Q&A box. We can start off with the first one. The first one is, did you narrow your search at first or apply to as many jobs as possible? Did you focus on a certain kind of company, for example, marketing, commerce, etc.?
No, I didn't. Especially after I graduated, initially I applied to any job that I was in Canada. They did have to have like something like interesting in a way, like learning opportunities. But not like, honestly, for the first job, I applied to almost anything. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. We have the second question. Can you talk a little bit more about what it's like to work at such a large company that is fully remote or distributed? How do you collaborate across different time zones?
Yeah, that's a great question. And especially the blockchain team actually is really distributed. We have people from working in Europe, and I think I'm the latest time zone in Vancouver. So we try to default to async communication. So any discussion that we have, for example, we are really intentional about having them in a GitHub issue or somewhere that is written. Preferably, we use a Slack a lot, but for decisions, we default to GitHub. So something that anyone can read and go back, and that also helps like as documentation for the future team. And then I think life in Shopify changes a lot depending on the team that you're on. yes, like as any big company, I do think that it changes according to the team, which is also really interesting because like whenever you change teams, you also like find different ways that your team works. But something that something that is really challenging about working remotely, I do say that it's having that connection with people. But the way that Shopify like tries to do it is like finding different ways to connect with your team and to the different ways to connect with people from the company. So for example, more specifically to Vancouver, we have meetups every Thursday that people go to, and then they can connect with people from that are not specifically in their team or in their discipline, but like around Shopify. And we also have this thing called Bursts, in which the team, I think it's like 4 times a year, the team goes to a bursting location, and the idea is for us to connect and like build things together in this location and try to like build that sense of team that is a little bit hard to do remotely.
Thanks for sharing that, Carol. So we have one more question. What is your favorite hobby from the ones you have picked up over the years? That's an interesting one.
That's a good question. That's such a good question. I'm gonna say snowboarding, because apart from it being, I'm gonna say the hardest one that I tried, I had so many, I was really bad. My balance was not good, like going sideways, I guess. But apart from that, also the community that it builds. And I have right now, really close friends that I met through that I would not have met if I didn't try it. So part of that. And it also gives me something to do during winter, which can be hard, like to endure the winter, especially coming from a tropic country. So I think that snowboarding for now is my favorite one, but we'll see in the future if that changes.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, we have another question. Are there any immersive events like the ones you're working on in Vancouver?
They are not planned yet, at least not for now, but maybe in the future.
Okay. And what resources did you use to learn more about blockchain when you just started?
That's a good question. Maybe because they are quite different ones. We have in our team, we have a list of resources. I would like to like search for them, but please, like if you are interested more, or like whoever did this question, please message me, and we have like a curated list of resources that we recommend people inside Shopify to learn for blockchain. So yeah, I don't know what is the best way to share them, but please write me and I will share them, the list of the links that we have. Something like things that come into my mind. Crypto Zombies is a really good one that is about learning like Ethereum and smart contracts, but there are many different ones. So like please write me and I'll share them with you.
Sure, Carolina, thanks for that. And also just to add that in Humanu Code, a blockchain track, basically you can see the past recordings. We have done a blockchain beginner series starting from the basics. So even if you have no prior experience of what blockchain is, what DLT basically is, the distributed ledger technology, you will get a detailed information on that. It starts with the basics. So yeah, feel free to join our Slack channel as well. Okay, so the next question from Anna is, what most surprised you about moving to a new country for a job? Anything you didn't expect?
That is a good question. I think a lot of things surprised me, but I like the one that most surprised me. Yeah, I'm gonna say like the importance of building a community around things that you do and the things that you're passionate about. And that's something that when I was in Colombia, I didn't understand the importance of that. But it was like a surprise in a way that here, like it's something that I actively look towards. And it's a way like because it's something hard as an adult is to meet new people. So like, yes, like trying different things to build communities as a way to like meet new people and like make new friends.
That's great. So we have a question from Kate. what do you look at the most when hiring junior entry-level front-end developers? Is having a CS degree important?
I wouldn't think so, honestly. Like at least some tip that I give for junior people is to build a portfolio that is, for example, something that is not, it doesn't have to be anything complex, but it's something that is like small and short and like really captivating just with a look. For example, I think the thing that I did back then was I recreated an Guardians of the Galaxy interspace using only CSS. And I don't know, it was really interesting just looking at it. So it doesn't have to be anything really complex, but it's like showing this ability to like learn. And I think that's the most important. So I don't necessarily think that the title is important. And I do work with many people that they don't originally didn't have a computer science background. But I think it's more that like showing the ability to learn and the willing to be a constant learner.
I totally agree with you on that question, Caro, and I truly feel that it's the right attitude and the learning zest that matters a lot. So we have another question. What challenges have you faced in blockchain as a woman in particular?
As a woman?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's like, I would say that it's a little bit the same as a woman in, I think the challenges are not particular to blockchain, but it's like also the same as a woman in computer science and in coding. And it's the fact that we don't have like a lot of role models, I would say. So it's really hard to, I don't know, like finding that representation in the field. And it started to change. And I do see it in coding, for example, but like in blockchain, we are, I would say that we're a little bit, not behind, but we are like working towards this and working to find like that representation and yeah, like having more inclusivity on the field.
Thank you for sharing that. One last question from Eileen. She's saying that I'm learning front-end development, but recently got interested in blockchain. Do you recommend learning front-end development and being comfortable with the first before jumping into blockchain?
I think they are not exclusive. Like it's not like, okay, you either learn front-end or blockchain. Because as I mentioned, one of the presentations that I like doing is like building the centralized front-end application in 5 minutes. And the point of the presentation is not like the building it in 5 minutes, it's the fact that there's a lot of parallelisms between like a centralized solution and a decentralized. So I don't think you have to choose between the two of them. I do think that it's possible to try to learn them like at the same time in a way. And if you try to build a decentralized application, you would also be learning like how to build blockchain. So definitely, I wouldn't say that you have to choose one over the other one. They are not exclusive.
Yep, thank you for answering that, Carolina. I think there are no other questions. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. I think it was really inspiring and motivating. You can see all the love that you're getting in the chat. And thank you to all the attendees as well for joining today's session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Angelia and Grisha, for the opportunity. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.